So this morning I'm off to a certain fruity store to pick up a special something. No, not that one. This one, of course. Hey everyone, I'm back home. Let's get this thing unboxed. Hey friend, Mark from the Spark here. Welcome back to another video. Let's get this thing unboxed then, shall we? When we've done that, I shall transfer all my information from my older iPad and we'll do a bit of a comparison between the two, and then I'll answer some questions that I think you might have about the new iPad mini. But before we do that, like I said, let's get this thing unboxed. I also bought the iPad Smart Folio as well, and that colour should give you an indication of what colour I went for on this. Okay. So I got the 128GB version, which is the base model now, I believe. Previously, 64GB was the base model, and that was never no good for anybody long term. Well, there's not really much to it these days when you're unboxing a new Apple product, because they don't really put much else in the box. And in fact, quite specifically, the man at the shop said to me, you do realise this doesn't come with any power brick. Which is not a surprise to me. The iPad Pro does come with a power brick, maybe even the iPad Air, I don't know. But this just comes with the iPad itself. You do get a lovely braided cable. So there we are. That's what you get. I got a ton of these hanging about the place, loads of power bricks, so I'm not overly fussed, but you might be. And there we are. And yes, I got it in this lovely blue. That's kind of, I don't know, you can see that, kind of like a pale blue really. But the iPad mini is such a lovely device, such a perfect size for note-taking, sketching, and a few other things that we'll talk about later on in this video. But there we are. Nice colour, it's very subtle, but it is there and I do appreciate it. So, iPad mini there. Let's get this Smart Folio unboxed as well. A few little instructions on the back there about how to use it. How do I get this out? There we go. Let me look at this blue. The blue's a bit more striking than the iPad itself. Very simple design. That folds up so you can put your iPad flat, and it literally just sits by magnets. Whoop! Whoa! On your device there. It gives it some reasonable protection. Not necessarily around the side so much, but certainly the screen and the back. Okay, give me a bit of time and I'll go get this thing restored using my older device, my older iPad mini, and then I'll come back to you and we'll talk about some of those new features that it has, new features that are coming, and like I say, any questions that I think you might be asking about the new iPad mini. Okay, that took a heck of a lot longer to transfer all the information from my older iPad mini to the newer iPad mini. I'm on the public beta, so that had to do a couple of rounds of upgrading the software. Anyway, we've done it. You didn't need to know that. It was over in a quick of a flash, but for me, that took about an hour. Anyway, that is all done now. And before we kind of go into kind of some of the comparisons between the older iPad and the newer iPad, just to let you know some facts and figures about the newer iPad. It comes with the A17 Pro chip, which I believe they put in the iPhone 15, which apparently delivers up to 30% more CPU performance and 25% faster graphics than what you would get in here. I think this is also kind of stuff like ray tracing and things like that, which should make for a much better gaming experience. I don't do much gaming on these things, although that is, you know, a very viable thing that you could and probably should do on something of this size, you know, kind of Switch-like size, things like that. So, you know, if some of those AAA games that are available on the App Store, they'll work exceedingly well on this new iPad mini compared to the older iPad. Also, I believe the RAM has been doubled as well. So I think that had 4 gig, and this has now got 8 gig of RAM, which again will help you with all that kind of gaming stuff, but multitasking too, such as it is, and in creative apps as well, you know, you're editing photos and maybe even doing simple video editing as well, which is entirely achievable on this thing using I use an app called LumaFusion, which I have done video editing on this the older iPad. Worked perfectly well, will work exceedingly well, I would imagine, on this here. Just don't go too heavy with the 4K timelines and have too many of those things, and you should be all right. So that's kind of like the main thing. Well, no, it isn't the main thing. The main thing is that the new iPad mini will be coming with Apple Intelligence. So that's kind of Apple's version of AI, artificial intelligence. I'm sure you're aware of that. But in the UK, we're not going to get that until December. So I can't really talk about that in terms of this in comparison to the old version of Siri, because we haven't got it, and I don't want to talk about something that we haven't got yet that may even improve it a little bit before we get it in December. But when that arrives, I will come back to this and I will investigate Apple Intelligence and share my thoughts and findings with you when we get it. But I can't really talk about it because even though this thing is fully capable of supporting Apple Intelligence, which this one obviously isn't, and some of the older iPads that can't as well. I think it's just the iPhone 15, the iPhone 16, the new iPad Air and the new M4 iPad Pro. I think they're the only ones that can support it, but it'll trickle down the line as the years go on. So we'll talk about that when we get there, but I can't talk any more about it right now. Now, as you can see, and as I said earlier, this thing, I've got it in blue. The previous one, I've got it in kind of that space grey. There's really not much that's changed in terms of the form factor. It's exactly the same. The screen size is exactly the same. Maybe if you look on the back here, we've got iPad and iPad mini. So in case you were a little bit confused, this is now the iPad mini. I guess the other major thing to talk about is the fact that the new iPad mini uses the Apple Pencil Pro. This is just the normal Apple Pencil 2nd gen. I do believe as well that the USB-C version of this one that you charge with like a USB-C connection, that will also work with this. But the reason that won't work with that is because apparently the magnets are all in the wrong place, so it won't fit as well. It's quite loosey goosey. The issue I've got with that is that there's nothing on here. There's nothing on this side of the iPad. So could they not have honestly put the older connectivity there for the older generation iPad Pencil, the Apple Pencil? There we go. So, I mean, you won't even register it, I don't think, when you put it on there. So, you know, if I do that and try and hold it in there, won't even register. So yeah, that's something for you to be aware of. It will only work with the new Apple Pencil Pro. So if that is something you do, you know, then that's I think that's about 130 quid for the Apple Pencil Pro. But listen, you know, this thing is made for note taking. This thing is made for sketching. So I think for most of you who are going to probably be purchasing this, that's probably going to be a worthwhile investment. If you've watched my previous videos, some of the difference between the Pencil Pro, between the Apple Pencil Pro and the 2nd gen Apple Pencil is that obviously they're both double tap, so you can change kind of what you're functioning on, what you're using. But this has also got that kind of squeeze thing, which brings up. If we go on here, let's open up Freeform. So if I just squeeze it, it brings up a whole selection of stuff here. There we go. And as always, it's very good. So you got your double tap. There you go. Or squeeze. And when you squeeze, it kind of gives it that real tactile vibrate. There's a vibrating kind of feedback on there, but it just feels like you're tapping something here, you're genuinely are squeezing it at the bottom here. And then it has something called barrel roll, I think, when you're kind of depending on what you're in. Let's go, we'll do here, there you go. I don't know if you can hopefully be able to see that. You can kind of change the direction of what you're doing, and then obviously it's got the hover feature as well. But ultimately the design is the same. You know, you've got your bezels here, they're exactly the same. Now I don't mind bezels. Yeah, maybe these could be a little bit thinner just to make it look a little bit more modern, a little bit more stylish. But you know, when you're holding this thing, you want to be able to hold it. You want to have your fingers somewhere. So bezels in a device like this do serve a purpose, and I kind of appreciate that. Is there a lot of wasted space still around this screen because of the resolution that it uses? Yes, there is. You could squeeze a few more things on there. You know, there's a lot of dead space around the edges, and this is just ridiculous. So something to do with the resolution would be good. This thing doesn't have, as this thing didn't have either, doesn't have stage manager, so you can't do kind of multitasking in terms of having multiple windows open, although you can do, as you've always been able to do for a while, which is drag something across and have split screen. And you can have hover and things like that, and you can connect it to an external monitor if you wish. But it'll mirror your device. So, you know, you're not going to get that like Samsung Dex like thing where you just plug it in and all of a sudden you've got a full-blown computer at your fingertips, as it were, you know, with a keyboard and a mouse attached. It will mirror it. So you could do it a little bit like that, but that feels a bit janky without the kind of the stage manager effect on here. Now, the number one question that a lot of people have been asking, in fact, let's just do a little bit of a speed test. Let's open Safari before I answer that question, see which one's quicker. Okay, quite a lot quicker on here. Let's just close those again. I just want to give that a bit more of a, I want to test it again. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to be quicker. It's the chip's a number of generations newer than this one here. Now, the reason I'm going on to here is because it's probably going to be, let's go into something, let's go into just go to a website, just find something here that's the same. Anyway, is the jelly scroll, is this something called the jelly scroll still happening? There's a new one. Yep, the jelly scroll is still there. I don't know if you can pick up on the camera, but what is happening is that it's kind of, as you scroll down and up, so as you go up, this side is going up first, and then as you go down, this side is going down, and you kind of see it, and if you go back and forth, it kind of is like a jelly-like scroll. Now, I've never been bothered by it. It almost felt like a feature, like following your finger where you were going. A lot of people, it was a big issue for them, but I've never had that. But it is still, it's the same screen and everything, so it's still on here. It's not 120 hertz refresh rate, it's still 60 hertz refresh rate. It's the same screen that's on here. You don't get a higher refresh rate, anything like that. So the jelly scroll is on there. Is it any less, any worse? Well, maybe with some software tweaks. They managed to make it a little bit less. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit less, but yeah, that's definitely worse on there. So maybe some software tweaks have enabled it to reduce that jelly-like scroll somewhat. But as far as I'm aware, the screen is exactly the same screen as on here, which means I think the brightness is on like 500 nits, which isn't that bright. If you find, by the way, that this iPad here is looking a little bit duller than this is because I've got a screen protector on here, which kind of gives it a bit more of a matte finish, easier to see in the bright sunlight and under lights and what have you. It's this I put on. It's not a Paperlight screen protector, but I think it's a pretty good one. It's from a company called Bursem. And what's good is because it's the same size, this will work on the new one as well, and I quite like it. It feels probably a bit rougher than the Paperlight screen protector, but it makes writing a little bit more pleasing on here than just writing on glass. So I will have a link to this in the description if you want to go check it out and buy it from Amazon. Can't remember how much it was, but there you go. Go and investigate that, and I think you'll be quite pleased with it. There are some new colour options as well. Like I say, I've got this in that bluey colour. I think you can only get it in silver and this kind of space grey previously. You can now get purple, you can get starlight, and the space grey as well if you want. And this, like I said, this new blue option. I think there was a pink colour in 2021 when this came out. I think maybe I'm wrong in that one, but that has been removed. That isn't an option. There we go. The camera is in the same place. They haven't shifted it to the side or anything like that. I don't think that's an issue. I think for most people, they will be using it like this anyway. And if they're going to do a call, it's probably like that. Maybe that would have been nice for Zoom calls and things, but hey ho, it is where it is, and it doesn't bother me too much. And obviously, talking of the camera, there is no Face ID either. I've got so used to just looking at my devices and then they kind of working and opening up and working. But with this, no, you are still tapping that button there, the power button, which is also a fingerprint reader as well. So no Face ID just yet. They both use USB-C, so like I say, you can connect it to monitors and things like that if you really want to, and obviously charge it with USB-C too, and it's pretty fast transfer speed. I can't remember what it is exactly, but it's pretty good. Does it have a better battery life? Some people might be asking. Well, it's got a more efficient processor, so maybe I think they're quoting the same kind of battery life, but maybe because of that better processor, you might find that you get a little bit more out of it before it starts kind of dying on you. And yeah, there's, I just love it because of its size. It kind of fits somewhere in my workflow, which is quite a specific kind of workflow. I take a lot of notes on this on the fly. I do kind of watch kind of entertainment on here as well, like YouTube and things like that, if I can't be bothered getting my big old iPad out, and this is just very handy. So for most people, should you upgrade from the 2021 version of the iPad mini to the new one? I think for most people, no. I think you'd be quite happy and perfectly happy to do whatever you've been doing on here. There's not really that much compelling reason for you to upgrade to the new one, unless you want that slightly faster processing speed, unless you do some of that gaming, because of your YouTube, your Netflix, your Amazon Primes, all that, it's all going to work perfectly well. You're going to be able to do a bit of emailing on here. You can even do some video editing on here, like I said, and you probably will work a little bit better on there. But on the whole, I don't think there's much to go from here to here, unless you are an artist and those kind of extra bits and bobs you've got with the Apple Pencil Pro is important to you. Maybe that is a reason why you'd want to transfer up. So let me know, are you going to be upgrading maybe from the first gen iPad mini up to the latest one? Are you going to be going from the last model like I've just done to the latest one? Are there any particular things other than Apple Intelligence that have kind of motivated you to want to go out and buy this thing? Or you just want to kind of keep on top of the latest and the greatest, as I say? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your reasons why. I'd love to hear what you do that for. I'm looking forward to using this, experiencing the faster chipset, and then ultimately come December, checking out the Apple Intelligence. I did a video a number of months ago saying why I still think that the older iPad mini is still worth buying, and I think you can get some even better deals available now on the older iPad mini. And so if you don't want those extra bells and whistles and what have you that come with this, which like I said, they're not too many, then I think actually sticking to the older iPad mini, you're going to be able to pick it up at a really great price now, and I still think it's really worth it. If you want to see the video that I did when I tried to convince you that I still think this thing was worth buying in 2024, then go check out this video here. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.